What else have you been up to since you retired? You retired at 32, which is a pretty young age to retire. Did you go out on your own decision, or was it kind of a forced retirement?
I think I jumped before I was pushed, maybe. If you're asking me, it was my decision because I made it before I was told to piss off. Um, now, listen, it's yeah, like I don't miss it at all to the extent where sometimes I worry about why I don't miss it, and I think it just comes back to my last couple of years. I was like, to say I was frustrated with selection was is an understatement, and I've spoken about this reasonably at length before. I may have been wrong, and I may have been completely deluded, but that didn't matter because I genuinely believed it from the bottom of my heart. I believed it with everything I had. So if it was nonsense, it didn't matter, and I never got a reason, any reason for not getting picked. I used to just think, what is this? Like, what do you like? I just didn't get it, and I suppose now I don't miss playing because I don't miss playing well or thinking I've played okay, getting dropped, coming in on Monday, the sort of wee conversations about that, getting pulled to the coach, the frustration, the team's not picked on Monday, that my wife's asking me, are you playing this week? And I hated that. And I just felt like a child. It's not fair. And as I said, I totally accept the fact I could have been completely and utterly deluded, but I believed it, and it broke my soul. And I don't miss it in the slightest now because I just get on with life.
Yeah, it's funny
I
you say that, KV. It's probably one of the toughest parts of being a
Yeah,
professional rugby player. Like people say,
agreed.
oh, dealing with yeah, like dealing with the injuries must be tough. But I actually don't think dealing with not getting picked is anything as bad as the build up to not getting picked or getting
Yeah.
picked. So you're asleep, you're going to bed on a Sunday night before you head in on Monday, and you're going, I'm going to either be starting on the bench or I'm not involved. And not knowing that, and a lot of players, there's only a handful of players in the team that are going to be going in going, I know I'm going to be starting. 60, 70% are unsure whether they're going to be starting or on the bench. And then the rest are unsure whether they're going to be involved at all. And playing that over in your head. And as you said, sometimes the team gets picked on a Monday. Sometimes it doesn't get picked until later in the week, depending on the kind of match week or depending what injuries the squad have. But those little mini conversations going on, you're doing a bit of video analysis in a mini group with the 310s and you're reading into who's the laptop pointing at here. It's not really pointed in my direction. Maybe I'm not
Yeah.
in, or Jesus, I'm right down the chute of the screen here. I'm looking good for the weekend. Then there's a bit of mini chat going on, and maybe you hear that, such and such is in at fullback, and then you hear, oh, these are going to be the two centers, and you're still trying to figure out, he was quite warm with the handshake this morning, but not overly warm. So maybe I'm on the bench. That kind of stuff is it's absolute torture, is what it is. And like
Yeah.
I completely see why you don't miss that. And like you're going into a normal work week and you're going, right, this is what I've got to get done. And it's, reasonably consistent. And I'm sure you really enjoy that. I know you're very good at your job. But yeah, like looking back on your career, and I certainly won't be missing that when I finish up.
Do you know what? I actually had a
Yeah, and
conversation.
you
Go.
want to go, Eimear, or me?
I was just going to say, I actually had a conversation with some of the girls today. Obviously, there's a lot of tweets out at the moment about the Women's Six Nations being cancelled. And one of the girls turned to me and was like, oh, Jesus Christ, at least we won't have the drama of selection. Because honestly, it's the worst part of it. It is like you have to take the positives with the bad as well. Like Six Nations may be cancelled, but it's like, oh, thank God we won't have selection issues anymore. Because it's the worst part. Like you lose sleep over it. And like that, Ian, two teams are divided up like the day before, at the final training session on a Sunday. You look at the two teams and you're trying to see,
Oh,
okay, so juniors on that team, which means they're definitely the starters. And you're like, oh no, but this one's over here. So, because they're never going to leave our captain off the team. So you're like, oh my God, I'm not on juniors team. I'm not starting. And it's like the mind games that go on, like the computer there, your example is just, it's comical and people are like, you're crazy. And I think sometimes it makes you a bit crazy. So Darren, I envy you sometimes that you don't have to worry about that.
yeah, and you'd see on the Monday when one of the coaches would hand out, "Oh, Mads, you chuck on a bib there. He
Yeah.
chucks on a bib," and then you would be like, "Is Pinar got a bib?" We're like, it was one of those ones, like, but
It's
And
grown
even like,
man, like that stuff is just bonkers.
and
Like,
it's pathetic. It's pathetic. And
yeah,
but
it's like
again,
schoolyard stuff. Picking a team. It's like
Yeah.
the old schoolyard, and the two lads picking the team, or the two girls picking the team, and you're the last one to be picked. It's the exact same thing, except for bloody grown men and grown women dealing with it.
and I suppose it's just like I find it a lot easier to deal. I think I was on the end of a couple of rough selections in my international career, but like, weren't we all? And but I was very sort of at peace with my exit from international rugby from sort of 2015 onwards, because I thought Jared Payne was brilliant. I thought Robbie Henshaw was brilliant. I thought that I could see. I was looking, and I was like, as Gary Ringrose was coming through, I was like, this guy's a phenomenal player. He's young, like he's got all ahead of him. Um, and but I didn't see that at Ulster, and that made it tougher. And then like Tommy Bowe and I always used to joke. We played an A game in Naas against Munster. It was in April of the 2015-16 season, but in the September, we both started for Ireland at Mads. Remember the game? It was either against the All Blacks or Romania, but it was at Wembley in the World Cup. I forget which one team it was against. And 90,000 people, Rugby World Cup at Wembley. And then like me and Tommy are running out at Naas, and I always said when I get approached to write a book, it's going to be called From Wembley to Naas, because I don't know how I did it. I remember, Les Kiss being like, "Oh, in fairness, I think I was coming back from injury, but still, I remember him saying like, I think I'd like you to captain the A's this week," and I just thought, "Oh, for that." If you look up poison chalice in the dictionary, and I remember running out to the game, and I don't know if one person clapped. Never mind, 90,000 people roared, and we belted out the Irish anthem. So anyway, I don't have to deal with that anymore. So I'm loving it.
What are you filling your time with these days? You are an owner of a coffee company. Is it in Belfast?
Yeah,
shop?
we have 5 now, and exclusive news close to being a 6th. Again, I don't want to bore everyone enough. Part of the reason I left rugby was because I had a good career opportunity with a foreign exchange company who are based in London. And they basically, on the January of the season I was thinking about going, they were like, "Look, we would be happy for you to come work for us. We'll teach you how to do it. You don't have to study again. You can work as much as you want or as little you want. Here's the salary." And thank goodness I took that job, because a year later, the CEO who recruited me was from Belfast. He'd left the business, and COVID had come in, so I wouldn't have had that job opportunity. So I've been like outrageously busy, and I think the last thing which has made it easier is my first and only daughter was born a month after I retired. So I've got this like weird dynamic in my head whereby I have this life that I lived where I was a professional rugby player, and I've got this new life where I'm a dad. And for me, I never experienced them at the same time. So I like see them as separate things. So I kind of feel like I've swapped the life of professional rugby to become a dad. And I know it's kind of a bit warped and it doesn't really make sense, but in my head, that's how I view it. And I go, look, I'm now a dad, and that's the best job in the world. And I wouldn't swap professional rugby for a dad, because in my head, you can't do them both at the same time.
House of Rugby Ireland, here on Joe, together with Guinness. Game changed.